totally agree with that. Yeah, because in your mind you're thinking, well, if I just get this, then I can start to create some success and some residual income. And a lot of people sometimes they get stuck on that thought, so then when they pursue people, it actually turns them off and makes them they don't want to talk to you anymore, so they run away.
Welcome to Trial to Triumph, hosted by Caleb Johnson, the show about leaning into life's constant testing on your way to realizing your biggest blessings.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Caleb Johnson, host of From Trial to Triumph, and today I am very excited about our guest. Today we have Greg Mckinley. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Caleb. I really appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me on your show. This is amazing.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, Greg, can you give our listeners a quick synopsis about just where you've come from?
Yeah, so initially I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You could say like in a bad area. I guess you could say the hood. That's what most common term used. And then when I got out of high school, I decided to come to Arizona because that was actually where I was accepted into college. As far as I used to want to be a Disney animator, so I got accepted to like an art college to take like animation. I have a bachelor's in animation. Obviously, I'm not doing animation right now, but that brought me to Arizona 20 years ago, and then I've been here since. But since then, I went the whole corporate America route, working jobs. And then about 6 or so years ago, I actually had a mentor speak into my life, and he introduced me to entrepreneurship. Now, it was in a totally different business. It was actually in network marketing. But what I got out of that business was just the whole, you have to surround yourself around like-minded people. You have to actually start to read educational books, because one of the things he asked me was, now that you're out of school, this is where your true learning begins. Do you like to read? I was like, no, I don't like to read. I had to do it just to, for summary, like school papers and writing summaries or whatever, past tests. But I never read a book since college. He said, well, I'm going to ask you to just read, because if you look at, successful people, they actually read and educate themselves. So I was like, huh. So then when he actually had me read a book, it was similar to Business of the 21st Century, but it was called Business of the 21st Century, similar to Rich Dad Poor Dad, but it was pretty much like cash flow quadrants, Rich Dad Poor Dad into one. So when I read that book, that's when, the switch flipped. And for me, I knew, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to control my time and life and be able to help other people out financially, because I can't really do that just working a standard job. So that's where the journey started. So I did that for about 3 years or so in network marketing and a little bit of success. But then after I got to a certain level, I felt like I was ready to kind of move on and spread my wings. And then that's when I got introduced to real estate. Now, my initial real estate experience was with a tax lien, tax deed investing type of mentorship program, which I won't say the name, but I spent a lot of money and got very little value out of that. But that was a learning experience. So that just introduced me to real estate. I was like, okay, I know real estate is where I want to go. So then about a year or so later, I started to do a couple of transactions where, bought like single family home, mortgage note investing, did like a wholesale deal on a triplex. And then after that, I started to narrow down and niche down a bit more. And I said, okay, I think multifamily is actually where I want to go. Because after I kind of looked at a few different asset classes, like the shiny object syndrome, like squirrel over here. But then I said, okay, I don't have to niche down on one. I can't just do all these random things. I got to become an expert in one area. So with that, after I did more research, read books, educated myself, multifamily is where I decided to pursue. And then right around that time is where I met a couple of great investors like Gary Lipsky, Kyle Mitchell. Met them at their initial meetup, and then I started to actually work with them a little bit just on some underwritings with a project they were working on. But that gave me some experience with underwriting and speaking to brokers. That was my first exposure to doing that. And then I worked with them a little bit on that project. And then after that, I connected with a capital group that I'm currently partnered with now to actually pursue hotel and motels to convert into multifamily. Now, I've been pursuing this for the Arizona group because my business partner lives in Louisiana, and I'm the Arizona acquisitions guy here. So I've been pursuing that, speaking to brokers, looking at deals to convert. But that's pretty much like a quick synopsis of my journey.
Yeah, that's great. I didn't know you were a part of the network marketing, because that's where I got my first entrepreneurial bug as well.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'd like to just touch on that a little bit. And What is the most important thing you learned from that experience?
Yeah, the most important thing I learned from network marketing is getting outside of your comfort zone, because I was comfortable with just doing what everybody else did, what I was told and taught in school, just kind of pursue the 9 to 5 job, get the 401k, and you retire when you're 65, and you can kind of live a sort of comfortable life then. But when I joined the network marketing company, he told me you're going to have to get comfortable with people saying no. And, oops, I think my video, okay, sorry. I just said my video froze. But getting comfortable with people saying no, people being negative, family and friends actually. And that was one of the biggest things I learned, just becoming comfortable, being uncomfortable, and just pursuing something that I never did before. So that was the biggest thing I learned from there.
Mm-hmm. I remember, yeah, you hit that right on the money, because I did that. Yeah, it was all about the more uncomfortable you got, the more you grew and the more success you would tend to
Yes.
see, especially after a long period of time. And I remember going into like a mall here in Arizona, and it was so weird, like just trying to meet people, right? And it's almost like you're walking out and it's like a sales thing, but you're not doing sales really. And it's really uncomfortable. I think I ended up speaking with this one lady, and she might have thought it was a date, and I wasn't even like clear about like what's actually going on. But it's, yeah. And I think that's, for me, was great to learn just, again, be uncomfortable and really learn entrepreneurship at the base level and get another perspective. And what was one of the most uncomfortable moments for you that really taught you and really propelled your way of thinking through all that?
Yeah, so it was one of the most uncomfortable moments for me, I guess I say, or awkward, is when I reached out to like a good high school friend from, new in high school. And then he immediately became angry, saying, "Hey, you're trying to scam me. This is a scam." And it was like, whoa, like, no, I'm not. I'm just trying to show you another way to make money outside of like a corporate job. But he totally thought I was trying to scam him. Actually, it was a couple of people, like a good friend here and one of my friends from back home. And I was just like, whoa, because I didn't experience that level of like angriness or frustration from someone else saying, "This is a scam. You're trying to scam me." Like, no, I'm just trying to show you a different way to make money outside of like a job. But that was one of the most uncomfortable, awkward moments for me, when I had those like people I knew for years say that to me, and then it kind of made like our relationship a little bit awkward after that, because they really didn't want to talk anymore because they thought I was like a scam artist or something like that. So that was awkward for me.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes I still experience that with real estate sometimes. I mean, you'll talk to people and you just won't vibe. And I think part of the network marketing for me, at least, was learning too that it's okay just to walk away. I don't always need to keep pursuing this person, or it's almost like you're clingy. And I'm trying to think of a way that relates to real estate for me, but nothing comes to mind. But you just can't keep pursuing, and sometimes you just need to walk away.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, because in your mind you're thinking, well, if I just get this, then I can start to create some success and some residual income. And a lot of people sometimes they get stuck on that thought, so then when they pursue people, it actually turns them off and makes them, hey, they don't want to talk to you anymore, so they run away. But it's okay if you hear a no, just move on, brush your shoulders off, and just go on, and that will just help you become stronger. And then you get used to hearing no. So it's not that you want to hear yes, you want to see how many times you can hear a no, until you get that yes, and then just kind of change your mindset on it. But yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think not only there's another side of that, and that is pursuing a mentor, right? Because we want to get around these people so that, I mean, you are the byproduct of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and thinking, I just want to be around this person. That can come off creepy, right? And I'd like to, what have you experienced on that side of things? Do you have any ways that, you can share with our listeners to speak or get closer to a mentor and not come off, like uncomfortable?
Yeah. So, like for example, whether it's like the network marketing or the real estate, there are a couple people on both ends that really wanted to get to know because I really enjoyed their perseverance and all the success they created. They were like an inspiration to me. So for me, it's just more to say, okay, can I bring this person value, but without shoving it in their face and without being overly like excited to say, hey, you can give them a compliment, but not like a over, a creepy compliment. I really enjoy what you do. Thanks for being like such a great like asset to this community, something like that. And then from there, okay, well, thank you. They may say thank you. Then after that, well, I was just wondering if there's anything, some type of value I could bring to you. Like I'm good at X, Y, Z, and if you ever need a person like that, or if you need me to connect you with someone else, like I look at just bringing people value and not even necessarily getting something out of it. I just like to bring people value, and if something comes from that organically, great. But if you really want like something like, okay, well, I have this, a good network, or I can underwrite or whatever it is, and just if you ever need that skill, I would love to sit down with you, maybe take you to lunch or coffee or something, and just kind of talk and hear your story. And that's how I probably would approach it. And it has worked for me with a couple of people I wanted to kind of just get to know, like on a more personal level, just get to know as a person and not just like a number or like a goal. Like, okay, I want to meet this person, do this with that. I want to actually get to know this person as a person. And I've done that. And when you just you really are genuine about your approach, and they can see that and kind of sense that. And then, okay, this person doesn't seem creepy or like, I don't want to run away from this person. Okay, yeah, well, here's my actual cell phone number. They're comfortable giving you their number. Yeah, hey, here's my number. I would love to sit down with you. If you feel comfortable, text me or, something like that. Or do you have a card that I can email you or send you some information that I obtained that I thought would be valuable to you? So something like that. And then that's pretty much how I met a couple of people that I started to work with. Is I brought them value and didn't ask for anything in return. And they actually did reach out to me after that. Just say, hey, we noticed, you do this, or you have this, other group, this mastermind group. And we see that you're posting a lot of things. You're always positive. We actually would like to work with you and get to know you a little bit more, because they see some things that you have like on your social media, just how you present yourself and how you interact with other people as well.
I think you said a couple of really important things. One is that you say, I can do this for you. There's so many times where, I've heard of Brandon Turner. He said he's a bigger pockets person. And he told a story one time where this guy was asking him for coffee, and he wanted Brandon to drive 3 hours down to him. It's like, hey, I'll buy you coffee. Do you want to come, down to me? And it's like, no, man, like, I don't even know you. I don't know what value you can bring. But, you hit it right on the head where you say, I can do this for you. Because a lot of times, someone will approach somebody, someone they look up to, and they say, hey, what can I do for you? I want to add value to you. And, it's like, well, I don't know you. So I don't know where to take this. It's not that you're a bad person or I don't want to work with you. It's just that I get that a lot, or people, this person gets that a lot. And you also, said, if you ask them to get coffee, it's like, let me listen to your story. And that's, you're not asking for anything. People like to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's worked for me too. Just what you said there.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, because it's even just how, we connected, where what stood out about you was that you would always just ask, hey, you would bring value. Hey, here's this, or here's a broker, or, let me know if you need anything. You would always just reach out. And I was like, wow, this is a nice guy, and then from there, we just connected and got to know each other a bit. But I noticed that about you. You were always bringing value to people and offering things, or you speak to a broker or something. Hey, you know what? They may not work for us, but you may work for you. So, hey, here's some information. So you refer brokers to me that I spoke to, that I have properties from and deal flow. So, I appreciate that just from you being that type of genuine person.
Thank you. Yeah, it's you are who you hang with, and there's a lot of people that I've learned that from, and yeah, and you definitely add value to a lot of people, and it's not pushy, and it's just really genuine. And going from here, I'd like to talk about you mentioned a deed program that you were a part of, and I want to touch on that a little bit because there's a lot of courses out there, and not and there and you just don't know which one to join, which one's actually going to add value. So, what were some warning signs that, looking back on it now, that would be a red flag where you wouldn't pursue that course?
Yeah, so for me, the initial thing that got me was, obviously they knew the sales like funnel, I should say, to where initially I remember seeing this ad on like I don't know, like Google or something, and then I clicked on it, signed up the email list, and then I got like a free audio for like 7 days. Like, wow, this is actually really cool. It's like a 30-minute audio, which it was valuable. And then once I listened to that audio, come to find out, hey, this group is going to be in Phoenix. Okay, let me attend their free 3-day learning. So where they're going to teach you how to do this and become successful. Okay. So then I attended the 3-day event, or I'm sorry, it was a 1-day event. And after that 1-day event, they said, hey, we have a 3-day event. It did cost some money. You're like, okay, well, this is investing in yourself. It wasn't like a crazy amount, but it was up there a little bit. So, okay, well, I'll rather put this into myself. So then I invested the money into this 3-day event. But at the 3-day event is on the third day is when they presented the big price tag on like their full mentorship. And that for me, it was the red flag was it just didn't seem genuine. But I was really excited, kind of my first exposure, but it just didn't seem genuine. They had a lot of these sales guys in the back that were ready to sign people up. And then also one of the other things, a big red flag is, talking to one of those guys because it's a lot of money. They were suggesting, well, you can get like a 0% credit card or do this. And whenever somebody, for me, offers for you to get a 0% credit card to get into debt to join a program, that to me is a red flag because you do that and then you don't create success within 6 months. Now you got to pay that bill. And that was it just was a little too like salesy for me. So like, there's a few things like that where, well, you do this, then you get a deal or two within the next couple of months, you'll be able to pay this right off. And I was like, at the time, I just didn't know what I didn't know. But those were the red flags to me, to where they just are kind of pushy in the sense to where it's like it's like they're like they're not really guarding the door, but you can leave. But it's like they're standing all the door to where it makes you feel awkward if you just kind of walk out. So to kind of make that like shameful feeling. And also too, something I think I even learned from Robert Kiyosaki, I heard him say once, it says, when emotion is high, intelligence is low. And that always stuck with me because when people get emotional, a lot of times they don't really think straight. So when you go to these seminars, a lot of these seminars, like they get you emotionally, hey, don't you want to take care of your family, be out of debt and live a free life and all this stuff? And don't you want to take care of your grandma and pay for their prescriptions? Like, they get you emotionally thinking of something. Wow, I want to do that. Oh, but just pay us, $100,000 or whatever the price. I'm just making up a number. And then you do that, then kind of find out, oh, wait, there's not the support that I need to actually get to where I need it. There's not the mentorship where you call the number, they're busy, or they take 3-4 days to email you back. So there's something like that. I believe like when they really get you emotionally, obviously there is truth to that because you can become financially free and be able to do things, but it's not that easy because everybody would be doing it if it was that easy. It takes time, sacrifice, a lot of failure, years of work. I'm still working at things myself. It's been some years, but it takes years to do this. So for me, when they make it seem like it's quick and easy, like the get rich quick type deal, and just put the second mortgage on your house or get a credit card, when they offer something for you to get into debt in order to join their program, that to me is like the hugest red flag, using a lot of emotion.
Yeah, I haven't experienced that to that extent yet. I did go to one. They always draw you in with the free day course, right?
Yes.
And then it's, hey, come to this seminar. It's only a couple days. It's a little bit amount of money, right? Like you said, it's kind of up there, maybe $1,000, but you think,
Exactly.
I'm investing myself, right? And then you go to that, and then they really hype you up, and then it's, hey, 25 grand or 50 grand.
Exactly.
And then you're kind of stuck because you're already there. And again, those guys are salesy. And
Yes.
I went to one of those free trading courses, and I'll never go again because it was, yeah, just salesy, and it was cringy, right?
Oh yeah, you,
Cringy.
you hit everything on the nail. Or it's like maybe a grand, okay, I can do that, and then big price tag, 25, 30, 50 grand, 100 grand. There's some out there that's 100 grand, and they get unfortunately they get like the elderly people that's using their like pension and like their social security to like pay for this stuff because they want a better future for their kids or grandkids, and they kind of sucker them into this. But yeah, there's a lot of those tactics that's used.
So because a lot of times that's the only way that people see to get education. So what would you say, because obviously you and I have seen some success, and we've just been talking about it, it's not the way to go. Some people it might be, some courses are good, and I'm I'm in a real estate course and right now, and it's good, but what would you say is a good way for people to actually start off? Maybe they don't have that grand or that $20,000, or they don't want to get suckered into a sales pitch, right? How should they start?
Yeah, simply, I would say the initial thing a person will want to do is start with educating yourself. Like you can buy a book, instead of paying, grand or 50 grand, you can pay $10 for a book that has a lot of value in it. Get a few books that are, highly recommended from like the community, attend free meetups, or even if you pay for a meetup $10, $15, $20, you're still getting a higher quality person at the meetup that's in the field that you want to do. So go to like a meetup, meet like-minded people, actually connect with them and sit down with them again over like tea, coffee, lunch, dinner, whatever it is, and actually talk to them again, get to know their story, and start. I would just say start there, even like this, your podcast like this, like your podcast. Start with the podcast, books, networking. Those are pretty much all free. You can go on YouTube right now, and there's tons of real estate podcasts where people teach you how to do things or underwrite, or how do you analyze a deal? What is the NOI? You just look at terms and search all that for free. So start with I will say start with the free education to get yourself up to, okay, now I'm confident in my knowledge. Then now as I'm meeting people, maybe again, you could even do a deal by doing that without even having to pay for these programs. But start with the basic education, because if you can't sit down and like discipline yourself to educate yourself, watch a 2 hour long podcast or listen to an audiobook for like 2 hours, then I would say you might want to rethink that. But just carve out time to where you have time to educate yourself. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, and I you hit it right on the head, right? That's how I started with YouTube videos, and there was a free education. It's Bigger Pockets, and so it's like Facebook for real estate, right? That's where I really got started. And then for me, the most impactful thing after all of that was finding someone that either had what I wanted to have, or they were like who I wanted to be like. And they, if I wanted to be in real estate, they were a real estate investor. Like my first mentor, he had 5 rentals. We think today 5 rentals isn't that much. It might be for some people, and it was for me back then because I was just starting out. Yeah. But that person was just another tier above what I was at currently. And again, like you said, Greg, it's just add value to them, and because then they can teach you, right? They can teach you what's actually worked, and you're not taking this course for $5,000, $20,000. You're actually getting the meat and potatoes that is going to give you success because it's worked for them, right?
Yes. Yep. I agree 100% with what you said.
So with what you got going on, we kind of talked about what you've come from, and you are currently working towards a hotel conversion, and that's really intrigued me. It obviously hasn't intrigued me enough because I haven't pursued it, but I think it's a real niche thing to pursue. So can you talk a little bit about what that, why you wanted to pursue that?
Yeah, the reason why I actually started with pursuing that is because it was something not, like you said, not a lot of people were pursuing. A lot of people were just chasing like the value add apartments, and then you see the price per door went up and up and up, and then you would factor in underwriting to say $100K a door, But then you look at things now, it's like 200-300K a door. It's like, whoa. So now you got to rethink your whole strategy. But then when I was initially looking at the hotel conversions, like, wow, you could buy these hotels at, 50, 60, 70K a door. And then once you fix it up, bring value to it, you can sell it at, roughly, the current apartment prices. So when you look at that spread, that's millions, tens of millions of dollars that actually you would make on that sale. So that's what actually interests me in pursuing that with my business partner out of Louisiana, because he is the one that brought it to my attention, because we had a mentor, I think he's from South Africa, one of his buddies that were doing it and very successful there. So they kind of showed him, and he's like, hey, do you want to work on this? Well, being in Arizona and I'm over here, you can find one of these deals. Like, okay. So when I look at the numbers and projections, like, whoa, this is like 10x, and it may not be that much, but it was a lot of profit that could be made when you convert it. And I never heard of anyone doing that before. So sometimes I just like to pursue things that's a little bit different or out of the box where not a lot of people are yet, to try to go, before the trend starts. So that's what interests me in pursuing the hotel conversions.
That's smart. You always want to be out of the norm, and that's the niche, because especially now you're the hotel conversion guy. And whenever someone has a broker, and this is actually how, I worked with you a little bit. Yeah. A broker brought me a deal and said, hey, do you do hotel conversions? I said, no, but I know a guy that does. And when you're that niche down, you're the guy. And so I think that's great that you pursued that. Can you talk a little bit about a trial that you've gone through with that? Because with it being unique, I'm sure there has to be something that you've really taken away from all that.
Oh yeah. So with that, the biggest, I should say, challenge that I'm still currently dealing with is the contingency when it comes to the planning and zoning. Because when you look at the hotel conversion, the city has to approve it for like a different use, so like zone for hospitality, and it gets zone for like R5 for residential like living. And that can take as little as like 6 months to maybe a year for them just to approve it. So you can see that on the seller's end, when you present that to them, it's like, well, I don't want to wait 6 months to 12 months just to see if the city would say yes or no. They may even say no, and I'm waiting 12 months. You're tying this property up, and we don't know what's going to happen with it. So that's the biggest challenge is just the zoning and planning, trying to get over there. Now we have gotten creative since dealing with like a handful of those, like sellers are interested in our offer, LOI gets accepted, PSA gets drafted, and it's like, what, I don't know about this because of that contingency. So even though it wasn't the LOI, but they signed it, and then they did not sign the PSA. But since then, got a little more creative as far as looking at that. Like, okay, so can we run this as like a short-term rental until it gets approved? It might be 6 months to a year that we're running it as a short-term rental. Okay, that may work. And find a way to even generate, because initially in the initial underwriting, you may not profit for the first year because we have to convert it. There's not making any money because we're not running it as a hotel, we're converting it. And then you may start profiting in 2-3 years. And then, whatever the business plan ends, like sell on 3rd, 4th, 5th year, whatever that looks like. But that's the biggest challenge, just the zoning and planning. Having to get creative and not giving up, but just finding ways to work around that. So we have gotten creative on that and made deals look a little more attractive to the seller. But that's the biggest challenge that I faced.
Okay. I thought with the deals being a little more attractive to the seller, how does that contingency, so the way I understand it is you submit an LOI, and this is a hotel that you're submitting an LOI on. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So in the LOI, there's the contingency. Oh, and so if this doesn't get approved at the end of 12 months, that means that you get all your money back. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I would see that. Wow.
Yeah, because we'll have like the EMD earnest money. Okay, after this gets signed, we'll put 1% of whatever the purchase price is, and then, but yeah, if it contingent upon this being approved, so then some sellers like, what, I would actually want $1 million down hard day one, and it's like, So yeah, just getting creative with that contingency and like the EMD to earn this money down. Like, okay, well, we can do maybe 200 or 300, not a million, and just negotiating back and forth. So yeah, we do have a deal that's been in negotiation for a few months. It actually fell out of LOI, PSA, and then it came back on the table. And it's just been a lot of back and forth for like a couple months. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Wow. And do you actually, so it sounds like you do go under contract, and while you're going under contract, you're getting permits approved. Is that fair?
Yes. Once it is under contract, yes, that's when you start to spend the big bucks, get the permits, and like, the lawyers and the zoning and planning department, the government and all those guys that will be able to start to work on it okay, now we're on the time clock. Let's see how we can get this approved. But yeah, once you have the PSA signed, then yeah, because, the PSA costs money too, a lot of money to draft from the lawyer. And then once you get once the LOI is accepted, okay, now you spend the money on the PSA. And then once that's signed, okay, now we have to start, spending more money to get this to make it happen. So we close and start to convert the units.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that is what all that entailed. Wow,
Yes,
man.
yes.
Bless your soul.
Thanks. I need it.
Yeah. And I know you've mentioned a particular property, and you just mentioned it, the property that's been under contract for several months. How are you managing that? Actually pursuing it, I don't know. Yeah, I've never heard of that before. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's going on?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So with that, LOI got accepted, PSA got drafted, sent it over to the seller. All signatures are there, but then the seller is hesitant on signing. So the PSA is going back and forth. Okay, adjust this or change this or that. So the seller never really actually signed the PSA to put it fully under contract. It's been in negotiation with getting things changed and modified with like EMD or paying the liquidated damages, because on a hotel, have liquidated damages if it's a franchise, and depending on how long they have left on that lease or that franchise agreement, if you break that early, then you have to pay fees. So like, just there's so many little things that it gets put. So like the seller, it's one back, okay, well, you pay this. Okay, we'll pay some of it. Okay, we do this or that. Okay, well, I don't like this. Okay, so take this out. So it's been in PSA actually negotiation and not fully signed. So that's where the back and forth has been.
And is that pretty standard? Let's say if no one's ever put a real estate deal like this under contract, is that fairly standard for a back and forth from LOI to PSA for months?
I would say not standard. I mean, it has happened, but generally speaking, you would either get it under contract or just say, okay, we're done. We're going to move on. But the seller has been agreeing to things to keep it like on the table, if things would change. So yeah, I would say for it to be that long, no, that's not typical. It's just certain, and then certain, not, not everyone, but certain hotel sellers are kind of getting a whiff of, hey, these multifamily guys are, paying, 2-3K a door. So then they're raising their prices by millions of dollars on their hotel to kind of match multifamily, but it's not the same asset class. So you can't really do that when you look at that. So a lot of them are not really, I'll say like educated on just like the asset class when it comes to multifamily. They just think, oh, I could raise my price up to match multifamily, but it's not an apartment, it's a hotel, which obviously income and expense are way different and totally different business model. So that's been another challenge where sellers are just like raising their prices. Like I would see deals that I'm just going to make up a number. Let's say I'll see something that's like $2 million. Like, well, that looks good. And then, submit an LOI, it will get declined. And then 2 months later, the property now is like $5 million. So from $2 to $5 million. And there's no really reason behind that. Just, oh, well, they're willing to pay this. Okay, well, somebody else will pay more than that. So they would decline it because they want more money and to see who would pay more. And as soon as they do that, that kills the deal a lot of times, because we underwrite, okay, well, at this price, because we have to convert it, spend, 15 plus K per door and, kitchenettes and all this stuff. sprinklers if it doesn't have, which is very expensive. Electrical, the plumbing, like all that's a lot of money. So certain deals work at a certain number, but then as soon as they raise it by like double, they just people kill the deal a lot of times. So yeah, I've been dealing with that too.
Wow, that's frustrating. In real estate, man, it's not get rich quick.
Exactly.
Right?
Get rich
Get
slow.
rich slow. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Well, Greg, I think we're gonna wind this down. I've really enjoyed this, and just learning about hotel conversions. And I never knew that it was. I never knew that side of things. So thanks for sharing.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I've got 3 quick questions for you. If there is one book you can recommend to our listeners that's really impacted you, what would that be?
Oh, so I'll actually name 2 quick books. The Go-Giver and The Richest Man in Babylon. I really do like those books. I really think it gives the reader perspective. Just again, when you're changing your mindset from being like conditioned for so many years, just like in the school system and just, different things that we have, it kind of helps you to start to think differently about like finances, just about like entrepreneurship, or just about life in general. But so I would say The Go-Giver and The Richest Man in Babylon. I do like those books to kind of help you with just mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both of those books are great. And Richest Man in Babylon is a little bit shorter, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like a long book. So
yeah, you can literally read it in one day. I know people that read it within like an hour or 2. And then even the Go-Giver is a quick book because it's very small. And these are smaller books. Again, if people were like me that's listening, and I hated reading. I hated reading. I don't want to do that unless I have to take a test for school, and then I'm done. But me learning to change my mindset and my habits, now I read every day, every morning. Like I can't go a day without reading. Because it's ingrained in me now. I've done it for so many years, but before that, I hated reading. I had to change my mindset in order to change the results I want in life. That's part of it, is education.
Mm-hmm. Greg, where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, so you can go to greenzeninvestments.com. And that's GreenInvestments. I'm sorry, Green Zen Investment. I forgot the Zen. It's Green Zen. GREEN, Z as in zebra, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, Green Zen Investments with an S at the end, greenzeninvestments.com. You can go there and check me out there. You can contact me through the contact portion, and yeah, that's where people can learn more about me. Or social media, to search my name. I'm on social media too.
Mm-hmm. I'll link that into the show notes as well. And if you could give our listeners one piece of advice just from today, what would that be?
Yeah, so my piece of advice to the listeners would be just never give up. And also just get your mind to know that failure is part of success. You actually have to fail in order to be successful, because you can't just press an easy button and just sit back and success happens. You will fail, but fail forward and know that it's part of growing, because it just reminds me of, I don't know if you know who, oh man, I'm forgetting her name. She created Spanx, like the pen Spanx. Her name is
I don't know who it is, but I think I've heard of it.
I know who it is, but right now her name, I apologize, her name. But what I liked about her story is that she said when they were younger, her and her sister would come home from school, and when they would have dinner with their dad, the dad would ask them, okay, so what did you fail at today instead of what were you good at in school? And if they did not have anything, he would actually be kind of upset, because he knew that, you have to fail in order to learn and grow. So she took that, and then when she became successful, and at her company, now they have what's called oops meetings, to where they go around and talk about their like screw ups. Like, hey, what did you do wrong today? But embrace it that, hey, we're human. We all make mistakes, instead of like, a lot of times in the corporate world, if you make a mistake, it's bad and you get kind of scolded. But this one, they embrace failure because they know that failure leads to success. But yeah, just don't give up, and like failure is part of success is my advice.
Well, Greg, thanks for that, and thanks for joining us today. I really enjoyed this, and we'll head out. So, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
It's time to grab your victory. Find us on the web at redseacapitalgroup.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Red Sea Capital Group.